You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
Since its inception, Amazon Web Services, AWS, has been the best place for customers to build and run open source software in the cloud. AWS is proud to support open source projects, foundations, and partners.
Amanda, you just got back from Maui?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
From Maui to London.
From Maui to London. I like that. I like that. It's a long trip, but I imagine you were sitting on the beach and you were under light like this. Now you got the bright lights on you like you had in Maui.
Close comparison.
I digress. I'm here with Amanda Katona. Amanda, tell us a little bit about what you do at NetApp and just a little bit about your background. Because I've known you since, you corrected me, since your EMC days, which was several years ago. And then you went to Dell. I saw you, and we knew each other at Dell when you were at Dell. Then VMware, and now NetApp.
Now NetApp, yeah.
How about that?
I'm still, doing awesome work in the community. I now run an open source engineering team, and then I have a team of dev advocates, and we're working in open source data infrastructure now.
Have you always been the community person? Do you remember high school or even younger, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. Or was it just kind of a different kind of a time?
It was a different time back then. I think I started in community back in 2012, actually. My background's in supercomputing.
Oh, right.
And I ran a customer advocacy program at DDN. That's when I first learned about community, got my master's in organizational leadership, which is all about community, and then moved into the Kubernetes space a decade ago.
That was all scientists, right?
Yes.
Yes. Scientists and musicians, they're very interesting people. And when you combine the two, you get some brilliance there.
You do.
Yeah. Anyways, we're talking about OpenSearch. And OpenSearch is now part of the Linux Foundation, but it has an interesting history, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, because it's fun to hear from your point of view.
Sure. So, we have a long history with the project. We were the first managed service provider to offer services outside of AWS on Elasticsearch. And when we saw the licensing change, we saw our customers and users move into OpenSearch. So that happened in April of 2021, and then we offered a managed service on that in November of 2021. So it's been cool to see how the community has gathered together and gone into that OpenSearch and open source movement here. It's been really nice to see the evolution of it being, a company-led project, and now under the Linux Foundation umbrella, underneath that OpenSearch Foundation. And so we're starting to see more contributions. The last I checked, there was over, I think, 700 million downloads of OpenSearch. And I went back and looked at that year-to-year growth, because we did see that foundation come in, and downloads are up 56%. So the project is just gaining speed now.
So I think of the people who are listening to this recording, who are watching it, and I think of those people out in the community. A lot of them are probably interested in this topic. What do you learn from the community when you're going through this work? What are they wanting to hear? What are they wanting to do? When they see a project like OpenSearch, how do you appeal to them?
Once it moves to a foundation and has that neutral governance, you see more enterprises wanting to get involved. At all of these big companies, it takes approvals to contribute upstream. And when something is in a foundation like this project, it's a faster approval, and people really are going and contributing, but they're bringing actual use cases into the project and how people are really using it. We're seeing that a lot with our customers as well.
And that's interesting because maybe you could talk a little bit about the history of like how OpenSearch came about, because OpenSearch came about with like, when we saw, the originally with Elasticsearch and Kibana, and then AWS said we're going to start OpenSearch, right?
Right.
Right. So maybe talk a little bit about that transition from, from when historically it had been AWS and now to Linux Foundation. Was that a turning point for you in the project itself?
Yeah, most definitely was. So what we saw was the project started in April of 2021, and then it moved to a foundation in September of 2024. So what began back in the day as questions of, what is OpenSearch, and there's a lot of education around what the project does. Now you're seeing people asking more about how do we migrate from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch. You're seeing people who already know about the technology and are asking higher level questions and already deciding to go with OpenSearch. So it's moved from that education to it's been that technical decision's been made, and now how do we bring this in-house?
So how do you bring this in-house? So, when you're talking to developers out there who are involved in the project, what are they talking about these days? What is it that's on their minds?
A lot on the minds right now are, I would say, we've just seen more experience come from customer use cases. So people are bringing in how they actually use the project versus where, thought leadership is of the project. But you're seeing, hands on keyboards running into issues and then coming in and fixing it. We're seeing the developers starting to contribute a lot into that AI ML use case now, as we see more people going from, testing AI out or doing like a one trick into actually, using it and coming through with that.
I get it. So when you think about that, the AI ML, story, for instance, what are the features that they're building out? What is it that the features that you see users developing?
We're seeing a lot of development, I would say, in vector search and that ability to connect into external platforms like OpenAI. We're seeing also Gen AI and chatbots that actually work, right? You ask a question and it's giving you the correct answer now. We're also seeing anomaly detection, so fraud detection, which is a hot topic everywhere right now.
And so at NetApp then, how are you then approaching the stewardship internally of OpenSearch? Because it's a big commitment on your part. Why did NetApp make that commitment to supporting OpenSearch? What is it about it that's so important for NetApp and its own mission and its own business approach?
At NetApp, we're customer first, and our customers went to OpenSearch, and our customers requested the managed platform to support OpenSearch, and that's how we got into it. So really listening to our customers' needs and going into it that way. Right now on my team, we have a full-time engineer working directly in ML plugins. We also have a dev advocate producing a lot of the much-needed training material. And because we are that managed platform, we have a product manager who is in the project every single day working with the project itself, and we have a full-time tech ops team supporting the project. So it's really cool. I also like that we've brought a lot of the open source ways internally. So we have internal OpenSearch meetups where people share their experiences and talk through and troubleshoot what people are seeing.
That must be very helpful for them.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. It's just, I really feel connected to how open source works in general, and to see that brought into a larger company is just cool. The innovation that gets sparked from those open conversations is amazing.
Yeah, that's insightful. I think in particular, maybe you could talk a little bit about Instacluster, how that applies in Instacluster, for instance. Instacluster is a big part of the OpenSearch project, isn't it?
Yes, correct. So Instacluster empowers organizations to use open source data infrastructure to deliver applications at scale through our managed services. We have over 18 petabytes of data under management right now.
Wow.
We're very experienced here. And a lot of our customers, what we're seeing, I would say, is that multi-cloud use case, and then people who have that mixed environment between on-prem and in the cloud.
So with that kind of data that you're storing, and like that, those customers, and listening to them, what are some of the community initiatives that you've undertook that you're considering?
That we're considering, we definitely are working a lot in that machine learning space right now, and that's where we're putting a lot of our effort, and we're just following the customers, and that's what they're working on.
So what kind of efforts would those be?
We're in the machine learning working group right now, so driving through that. We are working on OpenSearch 3.0 is gonna GA here. I think it's April right now, so I think it's gonna GA this month. It's in that alpha right now.
Okay.
And so we've been working on that and those features.
What are some of the things that your team is looking forward to in 3.0?
In 3.0, I think the biggest thing we're looking forward to is that upgrade to Lucene version 10.
Okay.
And that brings a lot of performance enhancements.
Uh-huh.
So it's just bringing faster responses to complex search inquiries. And that's the biggest one that we personally are looking for, because our customers, want answers sped up.
Through OpenSearch, what have been some of the machine learning capabilities that you've been able to, build out as part of being in OpenSearch, but then also offering it back to your customers?
A lot of people right now are still in that phase of those complex search inquiries. So that's where a lot of our focus has been, because that's what they're asking for. And so that's why we're excited about 3.0.
Okay. Yeah, because machine learning now is like really taking off, isn't it? Do you see it really taking off? Like, because there's the data integration story, but also when you think about Kubernetes, right? And this is just an example of this. Like, Kubernetes, what I keep hearing is the customers are scaling out their clusters. We're seeing companies going from 10 to 50 to 100 to 200, even more, cluster environments.
Wild.
Yeah. And at some point you need to have some machine learning capability to be able to monitor all those clusters.
You do. The data expansion right now is mind-blowing, if you will. And so you need to be able to store that data, and you need to be able to find that data, and you need to be able to search that data.
Yeah, and that goes back to NetApp's core, in terms of storing data, right?
Data infrastructure.
That's what it's all about. So what are you thinking about, with OpenSearch and its governance model and its operation model that it has? What are some of the things that you're working on to continue to optimize the OpenSearch overall organization?
Sure. So what we saw is the project put in place that same governance model that we saw come out under CNCF and Kubernetes. So there's a governing board, and then there's the technical steering committee, and they operate separately, which is nice to see. That governing board has that technical steering committee member on it. And then what I think is unique here is that 1 out of every 5 general members has a seat on the board. So you have those platinum members, but then you also have the general members have that seat. And what I like about this is they're putting in place what they did in Kubernetes as well, which is that rolling model. So you come in and then you roll off positions, and that brings more people into the project. It brings more people, seats at the table, and then sparks innovation. I think that they'll be done with that role at the end of 2026, so filling all those seats through next year.
Okay. So who are some of the other sponsors then that, alongside NetApp?
We were a founding member of the OpenSearch Foundation. Uber's there, AWS is there.
Several others?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So one of the things I'm curious about is, the state of open source right now. And, we've written lots about, the evolution of open source projects, right? What would you like to see in the evolution of OpenSearch? And one thing I ask that because these projects are supposed to have very long lifespans, right? They're supposed to be, around 15, 20, even, longer than that. Really, that's what we're seeing. So tell me about kind of your thoughts on that, that longevity of OpenSearch.
Sure. I think that first step of moving into under the Linux Foundation umbrella is that first step into longevity, moving from company-led to a neutral governance structure. And that happened in September. OpenSearch Con EU is happening later this month in Amsterdam. And I think starting at that point there, we're going to see the Linux Foundation come in and support the project more. So we're going to see things like product documentation, have more of an emphasis. We're going to see security audits come through the project. We're going to see that higher level messaging. I was inside the OpenSearch booth yesterday at KubeCon here, and a couple people came up and said, how they need more getting started guides and that kind of stuff because they've already decided to move to OpenSearch, but now they need to get it running. And so I think that next big push that we're going to see for market awareness and for user adoption is going to come in when Linux Foundation fully puts itself behind the project.
So these guides you're talking about, that what does that reflect to you about the community? It says to me that there's a lot of new people involved.
There's a lot of new people going to adopt it, and that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of questions on, how do you migrate your data into OpenSearch? And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. So it's been a big shift on, who is OpenSearch to now how do I migrate using OpenSearch right now?
Do you talk to users about why they're doing that? Do they talk about that at all? Like why they're doing this migration, why they're adopting OpenSearch? Are they using proprietary, environments right now that aren't really doing the job? What are some of the reasons?
We're seeing that continued trend of not wanting vendor lock-in. And so now that it's in the foundation, we're seeing that more customers, more users want to go to that because they feel safe and they do have full faith in the foundation and it being there and that project having longevity.
That's the longevity part of it. So how do you prove to the community that this project does stand for longevity?
Sure, we always point back to it being part of a foundation. Once it's part of a foundation, we go into who's on that governing board, who's on that technical steering committee, and showing how much of the community is behind this project. With the Linux Foundation coming on board and really coming in with higher level messaging, it's going to up-level the project and boost market awareness here. What's cool about working at NetApp and working within Instacluster itself is that when customers come to us, they've already chosen OpenSearch. So they've already seen that the model works. And then we manage that from there so that they can work on the application side of the house.
I just can imagine what it was like before for them. It must have been pretty difficult to know that your data is actually secure, that your data is actually not going to go away in some, accident or whatever.
Right, you always see that with a company-led open source project.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing how OpenSearch evolves, over the next several months. Good luck with the project at NetApp, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you too.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.